Welcome, FOH, to this week's deep dive with John S. on the forum, also known as Cigar Jesus, because you are pretty much the nicest guy on FOH. I know we have a lot of nice guys, but I mean, it's only one guy who goes through and corrects pretty much everyone's grammar on their posts, and that would be you, John, and I assume that comes from you being a teacher, elementary school for our North American cousins, years what six, what 7 to 9 in effect in Brisbane in Australia.
Uh, yeah, I think in the US, the elementary school is our equivalent of our primary school, and I think they have a middle school system. So I've really been at the lower end of the middle school system
Okay,
in the US. So I have students that are around 11 and 12, those developmental years. I feel very fortunate to have those years. I think. And to answer your question, yeah, I'm just getting older, and I'm just noticing changes. And I think we're going to be talking about quite a bit about this. As one gets older, you just notice changes in a lot of things culturally. And I think the advent of social media and different forms of communication can leave one to maybe not be clear on what one says in English. Sometimes our members' English is not their first language, so what they mean is not what they've written. So yeah, I think because I have experiences, that's my career. It's very easy for me. I'm just used to
do
it.
you enjoy it? Do you actually enjoy correcting other people's grammar? Yeah. Oh, well done.
I do enjoy it because I've been doing
That's
that a long.
that's not that's not an open license, people, to go out there and do a Ken Gargett and just use no punctuation at all.
I don't
That
touch it. It's too much
don't
time. I
touch
don't have
Ken's
time for
toes.
him. No.
But AI couldn't do that for Ken. I haven't developed an AI program yet that's strong enough to correct his garbage. It's the way it works. Teaching, why teaching? You went straight out of school into teaching?
No, I didn't. And the truth of the matter is, I wasn't really sure. I think it's just the same story of a number of people that be watching this video. It's I wasn't sure what my future path was, but I do know that I had a neighbor who told me I should do it, and she influenced me to choose it. But more than that, I had three outstanding teachers in primary school that left a mark on me. They were really great role models, and so it wasn't too hard once I eventually got into my career to follow their path or
Yeah.
their things. Yeah, they mentored
Isn't
me.
it amazing? It's so amazing. I always remember, you always remember great teachers. I
Yeah.
mean, assuming people have had a great teacher, and I feel sorry for those who haven't had a teacher you resonate with during your developmental years. And certainly, mine was Jack Eels, the father of the great Wallaby John Eels,
Oh yes.
and rugby. That's rugby, people. For those who don't understand, John was probably the greatest Wallaby player that's ever existed, or certainly up there amongst the greats. And his nickname was Nobody, because nobody's perfect. And it was, I remember Jack was so good. I was a year younger than my grade, and he took me aside and he said, "Listen, your marks are good, but you need to. I'd like you to stay back 1 year in year six to catch up with the rest of the people." And I said, "Mate, you convinced my mother, who's obviously Spanish and not easy to convince on these issues. I'm good to go again." So he was great. He changed my life.
Oh,
He
it's a
taught me
big
a lot
life.
more. Yeah, he taught me a lot more than the ABCs and math. He taught me about character, and he was just one of those. He stood about 6'6", and he
Yeah.
was a huge man, but just a gentle, quietly spoken individual, and of deep integrity. And I've always remembered that, and the way you know, I always grew up before that with teachers and nuns who were very quick. This is back in the days of corporal punishment, where they'd be quick with the cane and quick with the strap. And I don't think he ever really took to me with a cane or a stick. He was always one to utilize quiet discussion and to get his point across on a one-on-one basis. Always respected that. What are you smoking?
I'm smoking a cigar that our members would rarely reach for, a Cohiba Siglo 5. I don't have that many left, but I figured this was one of those times that I should pull it out of my Tupperware. I think I've only got a third of a box left across a few box codes. I think the Cohiba Siglo 5, Rob, it's one of those cigars that even before Cigar Mageddon, as you quite aptly nicknamed it, in mid-2022, was just difficult to acquire and was never on special, even for a Cohiba. So, yeah, I value any
I,
Siglo 5s I have left.
I think it's probably their best Cohiba of all, the
Yeah.
Siglo 5. For me, for my taste, I love the Siglo 5. It's yeah, actually even today you don't see too many of them running around. I mean, they do very well in the secondary, but from elegance and complexity as a balance, and just the size format, which I love. I think it's a beautiful cigar. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking just a personal favorite. Nothing special, really. My favorite um, brand of champagne would have to be Lanson. There you go. And this rosé, this half bottle rosé, for some reason, the distributor Dan Murphy's here in Australia has uh, put it at about 60% of its normal market price the last week. So I bought up quite a few of them because
Thanks for the
I
tip.
like it a lot.
Thanks for the tip.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's
I,
45 Australian and 25 Australian. So if you double the size, a 750 ml bottle of $50 Australian for a champagne like this, a rosé, is rare, very rare, rare.
that's
Um,
how our teachers roll here in Australia. People they smoke Siglo 5s and drink Lanson champagne rosé on a weekday. That's how much we pay our teachers in this country.
oh, you're very good. You're very good,
My,
Rob.
you know, but my favorite, my I've said this before. My favorite clients, and you're far more than a client, you're a friend. But my favorite clients and friends are those who buy are the teachers, the painters, the electricians, the guys who used to come in and buy the 2 or 3 cigars a week. And because they've had a tough week at school, they've had a tough week in the trade running through roofs or pulling cable. And or they've had a tough, if they're a painter, it's bloody hot in this country. So, being outside and painting, and come Friday afternoon, they'd pick up their Cohiba Robusto or Siglo 5 or D4, head home, drink something that was really good. Those guys I always found were at the top of their game. They're always the best teachers. They're always the best painters, the best electricians. I
Yeah.
love working with them. I love having them in my circle. It's cool. They're deep thinkers. And you've always been a deep thinker, John, in terms of the way you approach your school, you approach your students, the way you approach cigars. And on that topic there, I mean, when did you first enter the cigar world? So when was you remember? Do you remember your first box? Do you remember your first cigar? How did you enter it?
Well, I think in general, and I think it's something that we're probably going to speak more about, and that you've actually spoke about this, and that is it's the sort of thing that I wasn't planning or wasn't wanting to get into deeply. It's just sort of happened to me, and then I felt like I had to find out more about it. So as I look on my life, I look at those things not just with cigars, just the things that have shaped my path that where I've had to uh, do something, or have to be motivated to do something. That has basically got me to where I am now. So to answer your question, my brother-in-law, he had gone to a wedding in India, and as part of his business, he was in corporate insurance, a bit like PJ. I
Yeah,
mean, you, the audience, you've told a number of our members know PJ. He's in the same field. And he was, my brother-in-law was exploring cigars at that time, and he brought back a box of Monte Cristo number ones. And look, I was just lucky, because how was I to know that it wasn't another type of Monte Cristo? It wasn't a Monte Cristo 2 or 4 that was terrible, or it was a Monte Cristo number one. It was a Lonsdale. It was well rolled. It smoked beautifully. It just, I just couldn't believe it. I just had to find out more. Why is it like this? I just didn't think smoking could be like that. So I just laughed.
well,
I
it is.
didn't
I
think,
mean,
yeah.
the cigar journey is not necessarily about smoking. I mean, smoking's part of it, but it's cigars mean so many different things to different people, and it can traverse different things for different people. So it can be something that's social, it can be something that's an individual pursuit, it can be something that's cerebral. It it's it it's always, to me, always pleasurable. But what year were we talking here? How long year? I mean, we're talking 10 years,
Uh,
15 years?
I think it might have been 15, 16, no, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, at least,
Yeah.
because you get exposed to it, and then it wasn't sort of immediate, and then we'd have family gatherings, and we'd smoke some more, and it was still good. It was, the next Monte Cristo number one he would give it from the box was even better. So then that just teaches you a little bit more. I mean, the other thing that developed my thinking later on was your video with Smithy. That had a big influence on me on the Monte Cristo number four, which was the exact opposite. Whereas this Monte Cristo number one was the very best of what this Monte Cristo cigar could be. This Monte Cristo 4 video that you did on the old deck at your old warehouse, that was a nice place, actually.
Yeah, yeah. At J
Um,
Street.
yeah, you guys criticized the hell out of it. And I couldn't stop laughing. And I thought, these are guys that I like to get to know because it was bad. And you're saying what was bad about it. And you're informing me about the opposite of what could go wrong with a cigar. And so that was adding to my knowledge too. And it was all very interesting.
That was before Habanos made all cigars perfect, as you now know. So that would have been in the early 2000s, really.
Yeah,
That video, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
I had
yeah,
long hair still. Smithy had
yeah.
long hair. It was just a bad cigar, and you do get bad cigars. It's just simple as that. In the end, you call it as you see it. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't smoke a lot of bad cigars these days. I actually think Habanos has improved quite dramatically in terms of their
of
overall
course,
quality control.
of course.
It's still not where it should be, but look, I don't have a lot of bad Monty Fours anymore. But I think you lucked out having a great Monty One as your first cigar. I mean, a great Monty One is and from India. I assume he bought it duty free in India or
Yeah,
got it
he bought it
somewhere.
duty free. Yeah, he bought it
He
duty
bought it
free.
duty free in India, so that's a miracle in itself.
I think so.
Um, yeah, out of that part of the world at that time, uh, it's
You're
what was the
relying on luck.
first? Okay, that was a gift though. So, what was the first cigar you actually? Do you recall? You put your own good money, your own coin into?
I think uh, I just didn't have much. Being in Australia, I didn't have much knowledge and experience, and I didn't know too many people. And I think at the time I was going on a family holiday um, to Hawaii, and so I was exploring whatever cigars I could look at and just get some knowledge. And actually, a fellow that it mentored me quite a bit afterwards, Trevor Leask, was the same when he got into cigars when he more when he retired from his civil engineering business. And
So, for those who don't know, Trevor Liska is the founder of Cuban Cigar website, which is just the Bible of Cuban cigars that's now run and orchestrated by Alexander Groom. But it was Trevor Liska who kicked that off. And I know Trevor's been a big part of your cigar journey as well, John.
big part, big part. So I remember going on that family holiday and getting some what was purported to be good non-Cubans, and I smoked them and they were fine. But then I know I found the forum, and then I connected with you guys, and then I started getting into Cubans more deeply. You know, you go on that path. I mean, I think you could tell people more that path where you
I
um,
love that part. I love
yeah,
that
you
part.
start getting a bit, and then you work out what you really like, and then you just
It
acquire a
starts
lot
like it
in a
starts
short
with a
time.
Monty one, and then you go buy some other few singles, and then you start reading. You look at the forums. You're onto Cuban Cigar website. You make,
That's it.
and then your next 3 years is Zushka in terms of you buy. And in retrospect, what a great situation that was for you. You bought everything that you could put your hands on. I mean,
Yeah,
not.
I
I mean,
did.
not, that's not quite. That's not quite fair. You were actually quite a smart buyer because I know what you bought over the years.
Yes,
But
obviously.
yeah, because you used to store them with us, you still do. But you purchased a lot of really good quality cigars during that period of time. But you went, but you are a deep thinker, so you did a lot of research before you purchased stock.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, at that time, I mean, we could tell our members and friends that are watching this video, the culture of Havana cigar buying was a bit different than what it is today. There was a propensity. Well, I don't know if that's the best word, but there was a emphasis on looking at crops or runs of boxes or markers or vitolas that were hot. So at that time that I was looking at the forum and joined as a member, the Romeo and Juliet exhibition #4, the POU June 13 variety was very, very hot. It was one of the best cigars.
That's one of the great runs of all time in exhibition for us. Yeah,
Absolutely. There was LUB, H. Upman, uh,
13s,
yeah, Upman number
14s,
2s and
14s,
Connoisseur
13s,
A's.
14s,
Yeah,
Winnies.
absolutely. They were solid. Cohiba was quite good at that time. There wasn't much that was bad about Cohiba. And things like that. A few years later, Habano Sese remarketed Keto Say, and I remember how that was you couldn't touch a Keto Say, you couldn't get it. A number 50 or 54. It's hard to believe now. It's good to talk about. Now they're just around, it's just run of the mill. But back then it was like more valued than a Cohiba cigar. You just got one. These are the trends. They're
There
really
was
interesting.
12. There was a trend. There was a trend. There was 12 months there between the 50 and the 50. You couldn't get them. It was just the 54. You just couldn't get them. We could get them. We just couldn't hold on to them. There was just that much demand for those two cigars. Today they're quite plentiful. You know, did you gravitate to when you first started in Cuban cigars? Have you noticed your own taste gravitate over that 15-year period in terms of two things, two in blends and in vitolas?
Definitely. Oh, definitely. So this is good to talk about. If you're able to get into this hobby and have someone mentor you like Trevor Lisk did to me, that helps a lot. That helps to maybe save a bit of time in your decision making because Trevor had gone through it before. And Trevor was very generous with me, so that helped me to be generous with other people, share my knowledge or share my inventory or share this is what's smoking well. And he basically favored Cohiba and Monte Cristo, so that really informed what I liked too, because I was exposed to stock that he had from the mid 2000s that was exemplary. A lot of Cohiba Siglos and some Robusto, some Cohiba stock that was awesome. And I noticed a blend change as I went on in terms of Cohiba. I remember it being a lot more herbal, grassy. I don't know if we have so much of the grassiness in Cohiba these days. I don't know if Habanos to say has made a decision to make it more, like mocha. But that's just my view. Yeah, or maybe it just Trevor's Cohiba stock was old. It was 10 years old, so there's that too. I think one thing in my
I think that has that sorry, just I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that has a lot to do with it. I think aged Cohiba certainly introduces those beautiful dry hay notes, sweet dry hay notes to it, and compared to young Cohiba, which is especially today, you're right, it has got a lot more of that coffee citrus note to it, which I love. Don't get me wrong. I think it's if you can anytime you can introduce citrus and coffee together, I think it's just milk coffee at that with a little bit of honey. I mean, really, it's a combination made in heaven, as long as you can get that in your Cohibas. But yeah, I still remember you always remember certain cigars that you've had in your life. And I remember things were pretty tough at home, and I grabbed a Coro just from a walk from a desktop at home. Desktop, yeah, at home. Was it walk-in desktop? No, before the walk-in, the desktop at home, and it still goes down as one of the great cigars I've ever had. And it was just a 2013 or thereabouts Cohiba Robusto that was all cream and honey from beginning to end, but intense, and it's like chasing. You could be a hacker as a golfer, but you have that beautiful one drive, and it keeps you coming back every week to try to experience that again.
Yes.
I wonder if I wonder if Habanos do that on purpose. They just put one great cigar per box, just to spread them out. No, they don't, people. They don't. They're not that. They're not that good in terms of marketing to achieve. Anyway, back to you, John, not me. What am I?
No,
It's
it's
always
okay.
about me. It's
It's
always about
perfect.
no. So your first cigar. Do you remember that first cigar that blew you away? That really blew you away.
Well, I was fortunate with a Monte Cristo #1. But what really blew me away was meeting Trevor Leask and having a variety of Siglo stock from 1 to 6 that was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe that cigars could be like this. And then in fact, it's informed my journey ever since, because what I found when I first started in this hobby, there were certain cigars in terms of strength I couldn't approach. I found Bolivar very hard at first. Some Partagas.
Too strong, too strong, too full body. Yeah.
I know.
All
You've
of them,
heard it.
or just all of them, or
just anything that was too strong. So maybe Partagas Presidentes, or I remember the Bolivar Coronas Gigantes was a bit strong for me when I smoked that. Not all of them. No, definitely not. But as time has gone on and I've smoked more cigars, I've deliberately tried to challenge my biases and what I like. I say to myself, I'm not going to not try this, or this is something I'll never do again, because you get pleasant surprises. But there was a stage of my journey that we all go through where I was interested in getting more exotic releases, maybe the limited editions or the regional editions or things like that. Now I'm just happy like that Robusto story that you said, to get something that's just a normal cigar that's been aged for a bit, maybe, or whatever, that you just reach
I'm
for
going
it.
to I'm going to circle back on your LE and your regional journey, because I know you went and tracked down some great LEs and some great regionals.
Yes.
Um, in retrospect, two questions. In retrospect, the one that stood out for you that you love, or one or two that stood out that you love in that regional and in that LE mold, and you don't really chase them any longer, and you explained the reason why. But tell me, you don't chase them any longer, and you don't particularly miss them, if I'm reading that correctly.
That's true. I'm okay. I'm okay with not. I mean, we had that FOMO, fear of missing out. I think a number of our members watching this video know what that's about. There was a time where I just wanted to try it. Sometimes I was lucky. I mean, I don't know how I ended up getting my hands on the Cohiba Robusta Supremos, even though it was 58 ring gauge. It cost 500 Australian dollars at the time. Now, they're an insane price. I think they're maybe 3,000 US dollars or more for a box of 10 after 10 years. But that's just an example of a limited edition. But there was
It's about 5,000 in
5,000.
London. In
Okay,
London,
there you
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
There you go. There's examples like the original edition, the Diplomaticos Bushidos, the special release that honored the connection between Japan and Cuba that Ben also say really worked hard on. An
A,
amazing
a very
cigar.
a very tenuous connection.
Yeah, we
Uh,
know that. Yeah, marketing.
a very tenuous connection of a samurai monk who went to Cuba.
Okay.
I don't. I'm but anyway, I love a good story, and
I
we'll
love a
run
good
with that.
story too.
Congratulations, PCC, for putting that story out there. That was great, because no one ever heard of that, not even Cubans. But anyway, back to, so you loved your Bushido, which I think is a great cigar. I still think it's one of the great cigars, the Bushido.
HR,
What?
yeah, go.
Yeah, no, I was going
HR
to say, what else?
56. Do you remember that one from 2015? I mean,
Which age
I
up
didn't
in
want
which one?
the 56. I didn't want to like it because it was bigger, but it's just an amazing cigar. Like, what can you say about it? It came out of that whole spate of great H. Upman cigars of 14 and 15. It's just awesome. That's it. That's all you can say. What other
That
superlatives
was
can you
great.
say? Yeah,
It was great. H. Upman
it was.
56 was I wanted to hate that cigar too. I couldn't hate that cigar. It
No
was
way.
just it
No
was
way.
brilliant. And that was pretty much the beginning of LEs used to last on shelves for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, they'd last for 2 years, they'd hang around for 2 years, and all of it then I don't know when it started. I think it started with just after the 66, the Cohiba, all of a sudden everything was disappearing in 3 months. If you didn't pick anything up within 3 months, they'd all be gone on the primary market. Not saying the secondary, but yeah, but we used to have that awful cigar Trinidad Short Robusto tea that
Yeah.
lasted for that like look, it's not that bad, but it was bad at the time. That was on the shelves for 3 years. Then there was so many cigars. What was another one that was another Upman. John, you can help me out here.
Oh,
What was
yeah.
it? The Upman? It was a short Upman, Sharpen LE. It was a little short Robusto as well, if I remember correctly. What was it? It came in a cabinet SLB. I can't remember now. But that was another cigar that
It
lasted
was,
3 years
it
in the
was, it was
market.
not it was not the 48 because the 48 was all
Ah,
right,
that's the
wasn't
one. Yeah,
it?
48, 48,
Right.
48. That's the one there.
Okay.
That lasted years. That stayed for years on the shelves. You couldn't give them away.
Yeah.
And now highly sought after these days. Actually smoking exceptionally well
No,
at the
you read
same
my
time.
mind. You read my mind because I was actually thinking that as we're talking about that 48 really came good later. It's funny that about cigars. Some come good, some don't. It just depends.
I've had good luck with LEs. I know people say they don't age well. I quite think the opposite. I think they age quite well in the main. Regionals. Outside the Bushido, what regionals have stood out for you?
Outside the Bushido, okay. Hmm, okay, I'll have to think about this. Uh, there was a look. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, I think, but I remember Sancho Panza Quixote. I think that's what it was called from. I think from Belgium, from
Yeah,
2017 or 18. I'm going off memory. And that was really good. Also, the Eslavo from Serbia.
yeah, that's
That
cool.
distributor, what was his name, Rob? He took an amazing gamble. Hats off to him to bring that out at
Yeah,
50.
no, I mean, absolutely. Alex and the team there, they put the Serbian release, um, 50 cabs,
Yeah,
50 cabs, which in a Sancho Panza, everyone thought they were mad, absolutely mad, and it worked exceptionally well for them. Again, you got to produce a good cigar, but it worked exceptionally well for them.
yeah,
And but that's a cigar that can knock you on your ass too. And
yeah.
it's still got some punch to them. They're very, very good. They're very, very good. So, having been in the game for 15 years and you're on FOH and you know full well that we have a lot of guys who are coming in the game now and a very different time to come in the game now. I would put you down as a serious cigar lover, as not necessarily a collector, but a serious cigar lover who has a fine collection of cigars. What piece of advice would you give to those young guys coming through? When I say young into the game at this point, because it is a different game.
I think the best advice I could give is to try things. I know the prices of Cuban cigars are very different to when I started out and definitely when you started out. However, the way to go about things, I think, remains the same. And that is try a bit of this, a bit of that. Don't settle on one thing or another. Be open to trying different um, brands, different markers, different vitolas from time to time. When you pick up your favorites, um, you just got to work out a method to manage that. What we call it your rotation, which for those that us that don't know what that is your core group of cigars that you tend to go through. There tends to be, if you read in the forum, there tends to be about 5 or 6 or 7 cigars. I'm just generalizing
Yeah,
that cigar hobbyists tend to have that they go to. Certainly, that's true of me, where even despite these price changes, I'm apt to just buy less and smoke them a bit less often. But I'm going to go back to them because they just sing to me, figuratively speaking, no matter what. And that could be, you know, average cigars, nothing special cigars like the San Cristobal de la Habana or from Cispi, for example. That's just a cigar that I'd be wanting to keep acquiring or um,
it's
no,
good. I agree with you. Like Principia is a great cigar. La Puerta is an excellent cigar. San Cristobal Puerta. I don't think a newbie, when I say a newbie, I use that term as respect, should jump in and buy a box. But where possible, buy a sampler and pick up five. And I think you need to have five cigars, ideally from different boxes, but it's not always possible. You can trade away. I think using the trading forum is great. Trade five of these, or if you've got a box and you don't want to spend so much, then trade five for something else using the trading forum that we have on FOH. So you can actually, if you've got those great, if you've got Monty ones and you're loving your Monty ones, well then let's see if you can try some Partagas 898s and do a trade and see how you go. Let's see. You might be able to do five for five, but if you like your Monty ones, look at a Siglo 5. You might have to trade 10 for 3 or 10 for 4, whatever it's going to be, but try that. I think that there are ways of broadening your taste horizons or experiences without actually having to delve into boxes straight up, because it is an expensive game right now. And in terms of expense, my next question to you, you've started to delve into non-Cuban cigars over the last, well, you said when you went to, was it Hawaii, you went to the United States years ago, you smoked some non-Cubans. You
Yeah,
went back to Cubans. Now I know in the last 2 years, as many people have done, you've gone and tested non-Cuban cigars.
true.
What's been your experience in that part of your journey?
It's interesting what I'm going to say. We're going to have an interesting discussion about it, but I've tried a variety of non-Cubans since mid 2022 just to supplement my knowledge and my rotation. I've really have a strong bias towards the Arturo Fuente Hemingway series because it just reminds me. It's not exactly like a Hay Chapman, but it has a certain sweetness and hay quality to it. The Hemingway cigars like the short story. A number of
I
our
love a
members,
short story.
yeah, and they're very reliable. Uh, so I've enjoyed those. I had a thing for Oliver, but I haven't been reaching for Oliver that much lately. Padron, I just admire that a Padron is a Padron, and their quality assurance with their product in terms of construction, the draw, and the taste. You can't mistake a Padron for Padron, and I think um, I admire those families, the Fuente and Padron families, and some of the other, even Carrillo, EP Carrillo, Ernest Perez.
Yeah,
Is that Carrillo? Yeah.
yeah.
Those guys that came out of Cuba that have done exceptional things with their product. It makes me think of those times before the Cuban Revolution, before the Cuban cigar industry was centralized in that period from 1959 to finally to 1961, when there were independent makers of Cuban cigars, and there was a free market, and it was sink or swim. You had to make good stuff to. I'll have to pause it there. I'll just have to go upstairs. Can we pause the video there?
I can pause it now. So we just paused it there for a moment while the cigar man dropped another box of cigars over to his place. The postman, I should say. Nicely done. You were saying about the Cuban, the non-Cuban marks that you respected.
Yeah. So it just the way the Fuente family and the Pedron family. I mean, they're two big non-Cuban brands, but it's born out of a tradition of um, care and precision, with their product and pride. That I don't know if it'll ever happen, Robert, and we can discuss it further. But I just wonder if my knowledge of history teaches me that things do go full circle. There's always a balance one way or the other in terms of the way things go in terms of human culture and society. So when I look at Cuba at the moment, they're on a low of the low right now, and I wonder if it was ever possible for families like the Padron family or the Fuente family, Carrillo family to have a choice of Cuban leaf, what they could do with that product. Maybe that's different to Banos SA. In terms of manufacturing, it just the possibilities would.
Oh,
I can't even.
John, we've been waiting 20 years
I know, I
for
know,
for that market to open up, that we could actually go in and run a
I know.
small little knock shop in Cuba and do our own brands. You can buy Cuban tobacco now on the secondary, but it's generally poor quality, and
Exactly.
it's mostly Velado or Seckel. They're trying to pass as Velado. They're trying to pass as Seckel, but you can certainly buy it on the secondary, but it's just not worthwhile. Look, I'd love to see those major houses, non-Cuban houses, and even smaller guys to have that opportunity to really press how good Cuban cigars can be, and to achieve that level of consistency that we're all that we're all crying out for. Not just consistency, but truly explored terroir. Yeah, to do small batch, small field, or small plantation production. to me, that would be extraordinary to be able to achieve that.
I think,
You know, it's
yeah, go on.
no,
I think,
yeah. I was just going to say, I'd love to work with a farmer who who has, you know, he's got a hectare on that slope. He's got a hectare on the alluvial parts of the of he's got an alluvial hectare somewhere else, and somewhere else he's got that gets the wind in the afternoon, and be able to, because that changes the flavour of tobacco,
exactly
all of
right.
it, all
100%,
those things change the
all
flavour.
of it. So if we can,
And so to be able to work with those people would be fantastic.
if we hark back to the example of Zeno Davidoff, um, what happened with him, Tabacuba, they might have been called that at the time, or maybe something else.
Cuba tobacco.
Yeah, Cuba Tobacco. Yeah, that's right. That would have been Cuba Tobacco. Wanting to branch out into European markets and make a connection with Zena Davidoff and saying, yeah, come in and take our choice leaf from the Hoya de Monterrey region, which was the premier region, which I think still today is the premier region because of that valley and the runoff, rain, the way it makes tobacco. It's just perfect. You know, I just can't imagine someone having that access today, and then him developing in the La Jolla line. You know, it's just the opportunity for that. It's just I wonder if that could ever happen again. You know, anyway, interesting. It's all
It
very
would
interesting.
it would look. There are ways it could happen. It would require a complete restructuring of the industry within Cuba, and a complete restructuring as to their thought program. In the end, they have such an iron grip in every aspect of it that, you know, it's a bit like saying that Bordeaux winemakers would permit people to come in
Yeah.
and start blending. You know, it makes, all you're doing is destroying your own industry.
Hmm. I can't see
Uh,
that. Can't see it.
no, it doesn't make any sense at this point. And given that they made $750 million profit last year,
Yeah.
which is up 250 million on the year before,
Yeah.
they would rightfully say, well, why are we changing anything at
Yeah.
this point? Because we're going to the billion-dollar profit, and we're doing it our way. And, you know, while Cuba is completely struggling on so many fronts, like all of them, and the Cuban tobacco industry, in terms of the pre-industry, all the way back to the field and the farm, is really, it's on the verge of collapse, or it's in the process of collapse, not the verge, on the process of collapse. Habanos is doing a remarkably good job in terms of the marketing of, forget whether you like what they're doing or not, when it comes to dollars and cents, they're putting runs on the board.
Yeah.
And until that changes, and, you know, and that's the whole thing about capitalism, until that changes, until all of a sudden they can't achieve the returns or the yields they're looking for, the financial yields they're looking for, then they won't be motivated to go and try something new. Not that I can see. Of course, there's also the aspect of, should there be a massive investment of funds into, you know, as a joint venture partner into the Cuban production, and that, I think that would be ballsy, ballsy at the best of times, because you have no idea where that money's going to go, and how many pockets that will end up in.
Yes.
Guaranteed, it won't be going into factories or fields or drying houses or sorting houses, which is where it needs to go at this point in time. Anyway, we're we're going down that rabbit hole. We love to dream. Yeah, we love to
Love to
dream.
dream.
Love to dream.
Because dreaming is
Small,
what
so,
it's about.
yeah. Sorry,
Got to
keep
start
going.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Fabrica 5 started with a dream. But you know, your journey,
a dream
a
and
dream,
necessity, John. A
a
dream and
necessity,
necessity.
exactly what we said before at
Yeah,
the beginning of the video. My journey was informed by what I had to do. And so same for you. It doesn't matter what we want, it's what it has to happen at the time. We make the best that we can, and then you have these situations or these things that come out of it that are great. Yeah.
Yeah. You've tried a lot of non-Cubans, and it's not just Arturo Fuente, Padron, and Carrillo, etc. There. Are
Yeah.
there any of the smaller houses that's impressed you a little bit?
Is it pronounced? I can never pronounce it. Is it Pete Johnson's Tatuaje? Is that how you say it? Yeah.
That's the way
I
I
think
say it. That's the
I
way I
love it.
say it. One here, but I've heard it pronounced so many different ways. But I'll ask Pete how he pronounces it.
Kudos to him.
But
He's produced some good stuff there. Illusione. Is that how you say
yeah,
it?
Illusion. Yeah,
Forgive my Spanish.
it's better than Ken's. I mean, he's the only one who pronounces Ramon Iones as Home Alone's. He's a disgrace. He's a disgrace. So, what percentage of Cubans and non-Cubans do you smoke a week now? I mean, you talk about bringing in non-Cubans into your rotation. What are you smoking as a percentage?
Oh, yeah. Look, off the top of my head, I'd have to guess that I would. I think really no more than 1 in 10, because I have quite a bit of stock. So my situation is a bit different to maybe some other members that are watching this video. I have enough Cuban stock to keep me going for quite some time, and that's a journey. I mean, we touched on it before. When you first get into this hobby, you work out what you like, and then you go on a big acquisition spree. Like from here to here,
Yeah,
and then you say, well, I've got that now, and then your acquisition sort of tapers off, and it's a very usual story. And that was
yeah.
your
Well,
story, and
back then, a $5,000 investment in cigars 10 years ago would actually buy you a shitload of product.
it
Uh,
would, yeah, it would.
if you had to put together 5 Cuban cigars that you really, 2 questions: 5 Cuban cigars for a novice coming in. What are the 5 that you would recommend?
First of all, I would definitely recommend to have the Partiga Serie D #4, because it's the #1 selling cigar in the world, a battle cigar. But the quality of product, in terms of that Vitola, the last 3 years, I've had a few from different box codes that have been generally speaking, they've been very good. I would definitely go for that.
D4's one.
Yeah, I definitely would go for the traditional Monte Cristo #2 and #4, because um, uh, they've been big noted cigars, or rather noted cigars in the Habanos portfolio catalog for 40 or 50 years or more. And unfortunately, I have to say it, but they're not always going to be your most consistent in terms of construction or flavor delivery. But when you get one that blows you away, they just blows you
Thanks.
away. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think we know what we're talking about. We've been
yeah.
speaking about it for a long time, what they could be like. So that'll be 3. Then have one that's you like, that maybe might not be a big seller, or not one of the big brands. I mean, for me, it'd be the San Cristobal de la Habana El Principe. That's 4. And #5, that's a good question. If you can afford it, if you like, if you like a Hebrew or Trinidad, try get one of them. Like if you could get a Trinidad Coloniales, if that's what you like, because they're very good cigars, for example, right? I would get a box of Trinidad Coloniales, even though it's more money, to know what a premium so-called premium is. Now we're getting into other areas. Let's call it premium, okay, for argument's sake. Trinidad Colonialis, or it could be a Cohiba Robusto. They're more expensive, but if you can get one box and just smoke through it slowly over a long time, and just find out for yourself what all the hype is all about. Yeah, I
So
guess
if
that'd
you
be.
can't afford if you can't afford a box, get samplers of. I think everyone needs to try Cohiba once, and the Cohiba Robusto is the one you should probably try.
Yeah,
I think, as you said, Trinidad Colonialis, if you can possibly find a 5-pack of those, get a 5-pack of Colonialis. They're just a superb cigar. The Principi, when it comes to Minutos, Perlas, or half Coronas, and don't confuse yourselves too much over those three delineations. There's really not a bad one that Cuba makes, but the Principi is very different. It's very, very different in terms of delivery, and I think it's worthwhile if you want to explore how different Cuban tobacco can be. I think that is the one from that perspective. You've got the Monty 2 and the Monty 4. Again, if you can get them hand picked by someone and possibly in a trade or even in a 5-pack, but if you're following a member on the forum and just say I want to trade for some of these, I would certainly do that, because great Monty 2 and great Monty 4 will surprise you. Will surprise you no end. And
yeah.
the D4, well, that's just a cracker. The D4, especially 2023 production, 22 production, you can't go wrong. I haven't had a bad one. I've only had really, really good ones during that period of time. You don't have to spend a lot of money on them, and they're good. Trevor Least is going to come over to your place, and Trevor has smoked everything. And Trevor's bringing a mate who's even, let's say he's bringing Gino or someone else with him, and you want to impress them with what you've got. 5 cigars that really, and money's no object, but 5 cigars. What are you delivering to them? What are you
Oh,
saying?
what a
Pick a
question.
cigar from these 5. Pick a cigar from these 5.
You brought up a really good question. Because Trevor, at this stage of his journey, has gone through quite a bit of his inventory, and for a time when we get together every 3 months, and he would mentor me with his inventory, or usually a Cohiba or Monte Cristo or Partagas, something good. And now the last few years, I've been doing the opposite for him. So, and he's always appreciated it. So you brought up a really good question. So money was no object, and Trevor was coming. um, I would definitely for Trevor, I would definitely have my older Kiba stock on hand that I'd give him. For him, it would be a question of getting stock that you can't just readily have, but you've aged yourself. But it's
Yeah. Do you
smoking.
have any? Do you have any early Siglo 6 in your collection?
I've smoked through. I have a box that I haven't opened yet from 2015. I don't want to know what that's worth, but I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to smoke it at some point. It's 10 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have one box of that. Uh, but if Trevor was coming, it'd be something like an aged Cohiba, some aged Monte Cristo that he'd like, or aged Partagas Series D4, because that's what he would like.
That's what he loves.
Yeah, that he wouldn't necessarily. I'll speak for him, and I know he'd agree. Uh, he'd be, if it was a good cigar that was that you've put away and you've aged yourself, he'd be very appreciative. He didn't necessarily have to be a limited edition
Top
or
end of the
original.
tray. Do you have any 1966 left?
Yes, I have. I think I have one. I think I have one
Yeah.
left.
Yeah. That's an absolute crack. That's I had one the other night. That's, to me, that was superb. That was superb.
There's
Your
one cigar, but
2000, yeah. So your
it did.
2015 Siglo
Right,
6, you'd open that up. Don't worry about selling it. Just open it up and smoke it.
yeah,
They
I
are
agree. I agree.
the 15s are great. The up in Sir Winston's, you
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's. I know you've got some of those.
Yeah.
Bushidos is another
Yeah.
one that I'd
Exactly.
be
That'd be
I'd be
another one.
spreading
Yeah.
Bushido. But I was just saying this the other day. I have a problem because I sang this on Zoom the other day. I have a problem whenever I go somewhere and they say, Rob, choose one from these five cigars. And there'll be something from 1972, there'll be something from 1984, there'll be something from here, something from there. And I I feel humbled to go and pick. I'm not one to pick the most expensive cigar. I'm not one. I'd certainly, if I haven't tried it before, I'd be the level of interest. But even then, I'd look at the cost factor that's involved in it. And I don't know. Do you find the same when you go out
Yeah. What we
and
call the opportunity cost. When I learned economics at school, we learned about the opportunity cost for a business, and that is when you have a fixed resource like land. What do you grow on it, or what do you do with it? If you do something with it, you can't do something else. And the opportunity cost in our hobby at the moment is the fact that you smoke something, but can you replace it? If you can replace it, the opportunity cost is less. Say in a recipe, that's not so much of an
uh,
opportunity. But, a Kiba 1966 or a Siglo 6 because of the price. When you bought it 10 or 15 years ago, it wasn't what it was, what it is today. So how do you approach that? But you have to come to some semblance of acceptance with it. I agree with you. Siglo 6, I will just open that box and open it and smoke through it. At the moment, I have some boxes. I have no interest in selling. That would, if I did sell it, um, it would have some value. Example, some LUB October 14 H Upman number 2 or some mid 2012 Punch Double Corona. Um, uh, they would be very much in demand if I was to sell them. But no, I just rather enjoy them. Life's short.
life's short, mate. I wouldn't be selling anything.
No,
I,
no,
I when people come up to the deck or whatever's mine is yours, you can choose whatever you freaking want. I don't particularly care. I just find it very difficult when the roles are reversed to go. And I use if you're a very close friend of mine, yeah, I have no issue saying, look, thank you so much. I'd love to try that, even if it was something that's quite rare. But if you're an acquaintance and we really only just met, no, I'm not taking your freaking holy grail cigar that you're offering me. I'll no, you keep that. I'll often say I'll only take one cigar, but you've got to smoke one with me of what we're both smoking.
yeah,
So, and the reason for that is that if you gave me a cigar, John, because we know each other very well, and it was one of your Holy Grail cigars, and I'm smoking it, and it wasn't performing well, my cigar, I would have no issue telling you. I say, John, I've smoked these before. I think this may be slightly past its best,
that's right.
or
That's
I'm
right.
just not getting that. And you'd understand the feedback, and you'd raise a concern. Well, maybe I need to be smoking more of these now as opposed to leaving them for another 5 or 10 years. But when an acquaintance, someone I've really just met, gives me a Holy Grail cigar, even and he says, "So what, Rob? What do you think?" I find it very, very difficult to be honest. For me, it's going to be very good. You're going to get this response. This is really good. I'm not going to kibosh your cigar and your experience. That's just a personal thing. I can't do it anyway. What do you do outside? What outside of cigars? What are your hobbies? What are you into?
Uh,
Because you're a
well,
band member to begin with. Your music's one thing.
yeah, music was. I did explore that for some time. I had a big music hobby in my 20s, and then as I got more disposable income as I got older, my kids aged. Invested in instruments and was obviously a bit of musician, and then I joined a band and found out I was pretty good from what band members told me, but only
What
because
do
I
you
just
what do you what do you play? What do you play, man?
uh, well, when I was because of the coronavirus, because of the COVID, it really hampered. uh, uh, live performance at that time. So I wasn't able to continue, and I let that go. But I'm at peace with that because I did that for 4 or 5 years, and in my 40s, and I was very happy with
But
that.
you play more than one instrument, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was more like I did for the band what was required. So if I had to play on bass or guitar or keyboard, I would do that. You know, I just learned the part properly and just invest the time. And that was the secret to it. Just put in the time because you can't shortcut. Um, you can't
Keyboard.
shortcut.
I didn't know you played. I knew you played bass. I didn't know you played keyboard. You played keyboard.
Yeah, yeah, I can play piano. Yeah, yeah. I just keep working at it until I.
Drums? Are you a drummer?
Yeah, I can play drums. Yeah, yeah.
I
Home
can't
and drum.
believe how many guys on our forum play drums. There's a
Yeah,
ton of guys in our forum who play drums.
I wouldn't say I'm John Bonham level. That's another level where talking now, getting quite technical, but um, the way that he would play like a big jazz, his influence was like a big band jazz drumming. Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, and being able to play quickly on the foot is quite a skill. I really worked on that, and but I didn't have to play drums in a band situation. But I had fun learning how to do rudiments and learn play quickly on the drums by using the bounce of the skins, and it was just a lot of fun at that time. At this point in my life, thanks to coronavirus, I didn't have much of a choice. Again, going back to the things you do when you don't have a choice that surprise you. My wife was getting ready to go back to Greece and visit her family after 30 years, and so she went on an application for Duolingo to brush up on her native Greek. Um, I decided I didn't want to go there anymore. I had enough of that. I don't know about you with your Spanish, if you went to Spanish classes when you were younger. Um, but learning Greek as a young child was so difficult. I tip my hats off to anybody that would learn the Greek language because of the conjugation, the grammar. It's difficult. I felt like I've mastered that enough. So I decided in 2021, when we were locked down in Sydney for 4 months, I was just put my hand up to learn another language, and I didn't know what I was getting in for. I didn't think it'd be that hard. I tried to learn French and Spanish. It was too hard to learn two at the time because I wanted to get good at one or the other. I went for French. I think at this point in my life, I think I need to go to Spanish at some point, but I don't want to start from zero again. But I'm going to have to and be bad at it for a few years. But I think now that I know French really well, I think that will help me a lot. Since they have my understanding, they have a 75% familiarity, compatibility in terms of the Latin that's in both languages. I'm going to have to learn Spanish at some point. But
Well, I never went to school to learn Spanish, and I still struggle on. So street Spanish, I'm fine with, but corporate Spanish is something that I've really had to brush up on. Actually, the more I got involved in the cigar world, and now specifically where you're dealing with factories, you're dealing with factory managers, chief operation officers, etc. There, I've worked out that yeah, you have to drop your street Spanish largely and look to corporate Spanish, which is a whole different world, which I really wasn't exposed to. So that's been fun. French, I know very little of. I can get by, but I think yeah, travel and languages. I always love that saying. Language is always learnt best in bed. Um, but but that's not something that goes well with wives and girlfriends. So but when it comes to travel, where do you, because you enjoy travel, what are the parts of the world that really you love and you'd love to see?
great question. when my family was younger, certainly was very interested, and my wife too, the two of us were very interested in exploring the American influence on Australian culture. That's so prevalent in Australian culture that 70s and 80s, there's been a lot of Americanisms. If that's the word I'm looking for, it might not be the correct word. But going to the US 3 times, 2011, 2014, 2018, was good for myself and for my family to see for myself that influence on Australian culture. I think after that time, I've done that now. I may return to the US one day. I think I will. But I went to Greece to see my family. Obviously, that's my background. Both my parents migrated to Greece from Greece to Australia in the late 60s. So it was great, Rob, to go back and realize that I could get by speaking Greek. I didn't think it was good enough, but it was fine. Only I speak with an Australian accent. I can't lose. I can't shake it. I can't do it. It sounds funny when I speak Greek. Even if I speak French, it sounds funny. It sounds like someone from England speaking French a bit, but fluently. It's funny, but this is the way it is. But I think I went last year on a river cruise. Trevor's done this a number of times. He influenced me. He's gone on a river cruise through Europe a few times, and I did that with my wife and another couple that we're friends with, the four of us last year through the Netherlands and Germany. I think I hope to go to France next year and revisit Greece. I hope to go to Spain. Spain is a very popular tourist attraction for Australians because Australians here say a lot of good things about visiting Spain. I guess
It's a great place to visit, mate. Spain's a great place to visit. I recommend everyone go to Spain. It's so much fun. And really spend time there and go north to south, east to west. And it's very, very different wherever you go. I mean, Madrid's fantastic. Barcelona, yeah, some people love it, some people, but really, it's the country towns. It's the small cities. It's the out of the way places, which are best. Portugal is somewhere I haven't been to in a long time, and I really want to go back to Portugal. I'm doing Greece and Croatia next year. That you touched on the US. The US is one of my favorite places in the world to go to. I mean, I love the US, and I always find that the US you see in the US is very different to the US you get on the media outside of the US.
Yes, yeah,
It
let's talk
is.
about that.
It's
Yeah,
chalk and cheese. It's chalk and cheese.
yes,
So I think that a lot of people get put off by going to the US by what they see on TV, etc. Get to the US, people. If you get the chance, get to the US and again explore. Don't just do New York and LA. Get out and see, everything, everything in the US. Go to the small towns. Go to the historic towns. Just take your time and cruise, and you get, by once you're 10 days into the US, you start thinking, you know, I think I've been well and truly over 35, 40 times to the US,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you start thinking, this is not what we're reading. This is very different to what it is. I find the people great. I think it's brilliant. Canada, I've only been to Canada a few times. If only it wasn't so bloody cold, I'd go
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
more. It is
I'm the
so
same.
cool. I love Canada. I love Central South America. I love I just love travel. I think you just learn so much when you travel. And cigars and travel, cigars are a passport. It's amazing who you bump into, who you meet, who you catch up with, the friends you engage with. And it's all through cigars. Italy and cigars, Gino and the crew and cigars, all of that. I mean, if you're a true lover of cigars and with the right attitude, you can go anywhere in the world and have friends. And people really say, yeah, let's have a cigar together, pop out, let's go to a meal, let's do this. I think, and it's why it's so, to me, it's one of the great benefits of being active on a forum is those connections that you do make across oceans, whether it be, I mean, Asia. I mean, I've gone north to south throughout Asia. It's brilliant. And I've caught up with so many people who are now great friends. And you know, we wouldn't have met each other if it wasn't through cigars. So I know you, I know
Agree with
your
you.
family,
So
the
true.
friends that you've made, Buzz and Jason, etc., have all been
True.
through cigars, and they're now they're some of your best mates. I mean, that's the thing about the cigar world. It's there to, if you've got the right attitude and you're not a dickhead, it is just such a beautiful way of exploring this planet. Is the world of cigars, and I really encourage people to make the effort to get out and reach out to people if you're going through their towns and say, hey, I'm going through here. I'll be here there next month. Would anyone like to catch up for a cigar? Oh,
Yeah,
it's amazing. It changes lives,
it does.
which is brilliant. Brilliant.
Really concur.
It's good.
It,
It's
it,
good, Johnny.
I'd love to go to South America, and yeah, if it so happens, if uh, we say in Greek proto-theos, we say something in Spaniards would say something similar, which if it's in gone plains, the Greeks say. In English that's translated is God willing, was Australians would say that, you know, the English or the Americans. If it so happens that that's part of my journey in the future, if I was to go to South America, I'd love to do that. I'd have to have a knowledge of Spanish. Just me personally, I'd have to have a knowledge of Spanish. Just to open up those connections with people a bit more. It does help. But the cigars, yes, I agree. I have gone overseas and connected with people through cigars. It's been very, very good. Very good experience.
It is. It is a passport, and it's one that I don't think people utilize enough to do. To do. It's just super cool. It really is. It really is. Well, Johnny, that wraps up our deep dive for today. You're obviously such an active member of FOH and on the forum, and and for that, on behalf of all of us, we'd like to thank you for being not just a moderator in the true sense of the word. I mean, you are one of the great mods of any forum in the world, no matter what it is. Compared to Ken, it's a low bar, but you are a superb mod. You're a great mate and just a great human being, and you're much appreciated for what you do. And on that basis, thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very
Pleasure.
much.
Guys, next week we'll be doing another deep dive and just to get a bit of a grip on who our members are, what's happening outside of their world, what they do. I think it's well worthwhile exploring. Look forward to it. Hasta luego. Cheers.